All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to Interactive History Games, timely and topical for remote learning. I'm your host, Christina Kirtley, and I'm coming to you live from my son's bedroom in Astoria, New York, which is part of New York City. One thing that you can't see is I'm also surrounded by a sea of Legos and blocks, but I'll spare you that view. We're excited to have you all here with us today. So I am a senior producer of education and youth engagement at the WNET Group, which is the New York Public Media Company in New York City, also known as PBS. And I'm also part of the team behind Mission US, which is the award-winning series of free online immersive history games. Whether you're new to Mission US or you've been using it with your students for years, we have a lot to share with you today. You should join the free online community for this ed webinar. As a member, there's a lot that you have access to. You can view and share the recording, which will be released after this. You can take the CE quiz. You can download the slides and the chat log. You can join discussions, and you can get invitations to upcoming ed webinars. So, join this community. It's free. It's edweb.net/social studies. I'm joined here today by Leah Potter. Hi, Leah. Leah is an instructional designer at Electric Fun Stuff. They're one of our partners for Mission US, and she's also Mission US's lead writer, which is very exciting. And she teaches digital history at NYU. Say hi, Leah. Hi. Leah's going to talk to you later about all of the different missions currently available. Today, we are excited to share how Mission US can be integrated in the classroom, both real and virtual. I feel like right now I have this sort of 360-degree perspective on the state of the current education landscape. I used to teach high school, so I feel very connected to all of you as teachers. I currently have 2 children learning at home, a 3rd grader and a 6th grader. And right now, the focus of my work at WNET is really to how we can best support teachers and families with the wide range of educational content produced by PBS. So we know you're looking for immediate solutions to engage students in remote learning. It's tough. We're all struggling through this. And Mission US provides this flexible online history experience that delivers a lot of exciting opportunities during this remote learning period. Today, we're going to unpack strategies for using interactive role-playing during this time of remote learning. Also show you how to integrate a lot of the extra educational materials that we have. While this is all going on, we're going to share some examples of how to blend gameplay with extension activities. We're going to illustrate how all of this can be immediately utilized with your students tomorrow. Okay. And as a bonus, we're also going to preview a brand new mission that will be released in June called Prisoner in My Homeland. And we're going to show you the look of our brand new logo and website that's launching soon. Okay. So goals for today. We're going to provide an overview of the series. We're going to describe the components of the Educator Guides. We're going to share some tips and strategies for using the games during remote learning. And like I said, we're going to preview the new Mission US website and the new mission Prisoner in My Homeland. Okay, but before I hand things over to Leah, I'd like to take you back, way back, to that time my wagon kept breaking down on the Oregon Trail. Okay, how many of you remember this game? I mean, I'm probably aging myself here. Here I see people in the chat always died of dysentery. Yeah, me too. I remember this game fondly as the only game we were allowed to play in the computer lab in elementary school, but it really didn't have anything to do with what we were doing in the classroom. It wasn't really integrated into the curriculum. It was just this fun thing that we did in the computer lab. Yet I remember it fondly. My journey along the Oregon Trail contributed to a lifelong love of history and historical fiction and role-playing games. But Oregon Trail was released all the way back in 1971, if you can believe it. Okay, so jump ahead to 2010 and you get Mission US. So Mission US, takes the basic choose your own adventure concept of Oregon Trail, but goes further to offer this interactive, immersive learning experience that can easily be integrated into the social studies curriculum. Okay. And coming soon, you ready? We give you Mission 2020, Mission US 2020. Ta-da! This is a preview look at our new website. So Mission US is getting a makeover this year with an updated logo, website, tagline, and overall look. We're excited to bring you the next chapter in Mission US. So the new website is more than just a new look. It's going to make your job easier as teachers with all sorts of additional supports, the ability to preview content, and help with seamless integration into the classroom. Whether you're new to the game or you're a current user, you're going to love all these new updates coming with the new website. We also, if you notice, we have a brand new tagline: serious history, serious games. So with Mission US, if you're a current user, you know this already, students are confronted with difficult periods of American history. They're going to grapple with historical concepts and challenged by hard choices that impact their journey. So yes, Mission US it's serious history, serious games. Even with all these changes, the core of Mission US remains the same. Mission US gets students to care about history by seeing it through the eyes of peers in the past. Instead of just reading about a key historical moments, they're part of the action. So this character-driven approach, we believe, really engages them. It builds historical empathy and a deeper understanding of the forces that built our nation in this very personal and engaging way. So during this time of remote learning, Mission US can still provide this deep connection to history since it's already an online immersive experience. So now I'm going to hand it over to Leah to give you an overview of the series and the missions we already have available. Leah?
Thanks, Christina. Like you, I also have two kids at home, a second grader and a fourth grader. So they're a little on the younger side of the Mission US target audience. They both love history and really, really enjoy playing Mission US on their own, which is something that they are doing a lot more of lately. Still, I know how much more they would be getting out of it if they had an educator helping to guide and unpack their experiences. So as we've mentioned, one of our goals today is to take you through each of the 5 currently available Mission US games so that you all can make really informed decision about which ones might be right for your students and your classroom. And that's whether you're planning for next week or for next fall. For each of the 5 games, we're going to show a short trailer, then highlight some aspects of the game's setting and characters, and then finally identify curriculum connections to both historical content standards and also historical thinking skills. Like most history classes, we're going to go in chronological order, beginning with our first game for Crown or Colony, which originally launched back in 2008 and was recently revitalized in 2018. So let's take a look.
It is the year 1770. You left your family farm at age 14 to become an apprentice in Boston. Trouble is brewing there.
Do you support the views of the Patriots, or are you loyal to the Crown?
For Crown or Colony, the game that launched the award-winning Mission US series has gotten a major upgrade. Play it now, online or on your iPad. Mission US, an interactive way to learn history.
So as you may recognize, we're in front of the old State House in colonial Boston, a city that both played an important role in the American Revolution, but also left behind really good sources. Our game development team used colonial maps, prints, and other primary documents to bring students back in time. And this is a research and design process that we've used throughout all the games. We try to show not only famous sites like King Street, where well-known events happen, but also to pull back the curtain on ordinary life and showing glimpses into a print shop, a farmhouse, a ship wharf, and then populating these spaces with everyday objects that students can learn more about and really help immerse them in a very specific time and place. Students play the character of Nat Wheeler, a printer's apprentice who, after signing his indenture contract, arrives in Boston just a few weeks before the Boston Massacre. As Nat, players are going to be able to determine their attitude and their role in the conflict, but they're not going to be able to alter history itself or the massacre itself. For the non-playable game characters, we always include a mix of historical and fictional figures that represent different economic, social, and political groups and viewpoints. In this game, these characters range from loyalist merchants who opposed colonial boycotts to daughters of liberty who led spinning bees. Nat can befriend a young British soldier who's really grumpy about being stuck in Boston, or a free Black sailor who buys his own freedom, or a fellow apprentice who asks Nat to join in tax protests. When we first began making for Crown and Colony, we considered covering a longer period of time between the Boston Massacre and the Boston Tea Party, but ultimately realized that it was more important and more effective to go into depth into these different historical perspectives than really try and cover too much ground. Badges and character feedback from within the game, along with lessons and activities outside the game, help students to understand and often empathize with these characters, which includes some notable Boston residents such as Phyllis Wheatley and Paul Revere. The game is a great launch pad for studying the road to revolution, and also helps make students make connections to other key events like the French and Indian War and the Tea Party. The second mission, Flight to Freedom, covers a somewhat broader timeline and geography, tracing the hazardous and long journey of Lucy King. Let's take a look.
The year is 1848. You are Lucy King, a 14-year-old enslaved on a Kentucky plantation. You want to escape, but how will you do it?
We all help in different ways.
And who can you trust?
I'll have my eye on you.
Can you find a path to freedom?
Come in, quickly, or you're followed.
Play Mission US online, an interactive way to learn history.
As we saw a little bit, the first part of Flight to Freedom begins on a Kentucky plantation and focuses on the enslaved community and the everyday acts of resistance that they engaged in, from work slowdowns to sabotage to learning to read and write. After Lucy is falsely accused of burning down the plantation smokehouse, the narrative soon shifts to her attempts to escape to Ohio. And in doing so, addresses common student misperceptions around running away, the Underground Railroad, and life in the North in the wake of the Fugitive Slave Act. The game makes clear how violence, family separation, surveillance, and the law itself was used to uphold the slave regime, both in the South and in the North. Again, Lucy can't alter historical facts or the coming of the Civil War, but she can adopt different strategies for surviving and seeking to abolish slavery. And she can make allies with other characters, including John Parker and Thomas Rankin, two notable leaders of Ohio's Underground Railroad. As with all the games, we recommend previewing Flight to Freedom before you assign it to students and to use it in combination with other teaching resources. The Educator's Guide for this mission includes over 30 primary documents that help to contextualize Lucy's experiences into the broader history of slavery's expansion and how different groups of people fought to end it long before the Emancipation Proclamation. The next mission takes place just after the Civil War, this time to address Western expansion and settlement from a very different perspective. The main character, Little Fox, is based on a real Cheyenne warrior, Wooden Leg, who left behind an incredible autobiography about changing life on the plains. Let's watch the trailer.
The year is 1866. You are Little Fox, a northern Cheyenne boy.
Little Fox, come. There is a problem.
The new railroad is bringing outsiders to your homeland. They are killing off the buffalo your tribe depends on.
Now we have little food and shelter. We are struggling.
Can you help your tribe survive?
Our people will tell this story for many generations.
Play Mission US Online, an interactive way to learn history.
So a Cheyenne Odyssey is one of my kids' all-time favorite mission, in part because he gets to ride horses, explore a beaver dam, and if he's brave enough to count coup. It's also one of my favorites because as part of the Mission US team, I got the chance to collaborate with members of the Northern Cheyenne tribe on its creation. We traveled to Lame Deer, Montana, so special greetings to anyone who's here from Montana, and we learned exactly how many tent poles were needed to properly construct a Cheyenne teepee. We didn't get it right the first time, but they helped our artist make it better. We also visited the site of the Battle of the Little Bighorn and learned about the cultural and military miscalculations that led to Custer's defeat, a battle that players either witness or partake in the last part of the game. Other locations, a trading post, a railroad under construction, and a reservation show how the near extermination of the buffalo permanently altered life on the plains. Like Christina, and I think many of you, I was a huge Oregon Trail. It probably influenced my choice of careers. But looking back at that game, I see how it really privileged only one perspective. It certainly wasn't the buffalo or the experience of women pioneers, and definitely not that of any of the Western tribes. Throughout the game's development of Cheyenne Odyssey, we worked with both professional and amateur Cheyenne actors to do almost all of the voice recording. We also worked with cultural and historical advisors to help shape the narrative and scripts. The result is a really diverse set of characters, which represent a much fuller range of Native American viewpoints than you would get in a textbook. Dr. Richard Littlebear, who is one of the key advisors, said that the Cheyenne Odyssey, quote, is the first game to present the Northern Cheyenne perspective on real events our people experienced. More than anything, we learned that the past is present. I'll never forget being on the reservation in Lame Deer and listening to a room full of people talking about the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty as if it was the 2020 election. It was Dr. Littlebear who insisted that the game not only cover the curriculum, the history, but also the persistence and continuity of the Cheyenne, which is why if you play to the end, to the epilogue, and I encourage everyone to do so, you'll see that the story stretches across several generations to the present day. Our next mission, City of Immigrants, is set in the 20th century and introduces several key themes in modern America, including industrialization, urbanization, labor movements, progressivism, and of course, immigration. Let's take a look.
The year is 1907. You are Lena Brodsky, a 14-year-old Jewish immigrant from Russia.
Welcome to America, miss.
Life in New York City is harder than you expected. You work long hours but make little money. Can you save enough to bring your parents to America? Will you risk losing your job by going on strike?
We can defeat the bosses.
Play Mission US Online, an interactive way to learn history.
Most of the narrative unfolds in New York City's Lower East Side, drawing on a wealth of archival material and another really great collaboration with the Tenement Museum. Until you can visit there yourself, I encourage you to visit its website, which would make a really great companion experience to use with City of Immigrants. Other key locations are Ellis Island, where Lena must first pass through inspection, and the Triangle Shirt Factory, where she finds both friendship and a better paycheck, but also long hours and strict rules. In addition to Lena's family and neighbors in the tenement, she interacts with other immigrant groups, settlement house workers, labor organizers, factory owners, and an investigative reporter and possible romantic interest, developing both skills and relationships that inform her participation in the 1909 shirtwaist strike and what happens to her afterwards. One incentive for students to play through the end of any Mission US game is to see what happens to their character. And they're usually really surprised when they find out that and learn from other students that there are several possible endings. So they realize you married Zev, you went to the Bronx, and they realize that the choices that they made in the game each led down a different path. It also really encourages replaying the game to see what happens next. One of the historical thinking skills that is deeply woven into City of Immigrants is understanding turning points. The games help students appreciate how choices, whether those are kind of big or small or individual or collective, have changed the course of American life and how those choices remain relevant to this day. We piloted City of Immigrants with a high school class of English language learners in Brooklyn, New York. And it was striking to see and hear from them how much they saw their own experiences, their first day arriving in America, having to quickly adapt to a new culture and language, and then trying to balance home and work and school priorities in the choices that Lena faces in the game. They also, of course, were also able to see differences, like the fact that they went through JFK Airport and not Ellis Island. Our last currently available game, Up from the Dust, feels perhaps the most relevant to our current moment. Let's see how.
The year is 1929. You are one of the Dunn twins, growing up on a Texas wheat farm. In the next few years, your lives will change forever as the Great Depression sweeps the nation. Drought will transform the plains into the Dust Bowl.
Between the drought and depression, people are suffering mightily.
Can you help your family survive hard times?
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Play Mission US, an interactive way to learn history.
For any of you who are familiar with or teach with the Library of Congress WPA photos, the game brings many of these powerful images to life. Most of the story takes place in Dalhart County in the Texas Panhandle, a region that had a booming wheat economy in the 1920s, but then was struck with double disaster of the Depression and the Dust Bowl in the 1930s. Later parts of the game show riding the rails and life inside a CCC camp, and also the Dust Bowl migration to Southern California. Encourage to make it through the very difficult farm game in part 1, which like Mission US itself has no obvious way to win. But it helps to illustrate the economic and environmental hardships experienced by American farmers. If they do, your students alternating between the characters of Frank and Jenny Dunn will meet a bonus Army veteran on his way to Washington, D.C. To protest, join the 4-H and possibly compete and even win a baking contest, ride the rails throughout the Midwest and possibly perform in Nashville, and help family and neighbors apply for New Deal relief. Finally, drive Dorothea Lange to California's Imperial Valley to photograph Mexican migrant farm workers. It is a really compelling way to grapple with historical causes and their effects, and to build empathy with how different groups of Americans are grappling with hardships today that are both similar and distinct from the Depression and the Dust Bowl. It is our hope that no matter what period of U.S. history you teach, you can use at least one of these games to support your practice. And with that, I'm going to turn things back over to Christina, who will show some of the approaches you can take.
Thanks, Leah. So we were getting a lot of questions in the chat about how long does it take to play the game, what ages should be, is the appropriate player for students. And I'm going to be going over all of that in this section, but just to tell you right off the bat, it takes about an hour to play the game. And one of the things we're going to talk about during this next section is how the games are designed for middle school students, but we find that they can be like a very fulfilling experience for younger students and older students as well. Like Leah said, her son, who's older than the target demographic, enjoys playing the games. My son, who's in 3rd grade, also loves playing the games. So that's something that we'll get into during this section. But usually when we talk to teachers about using Mission US, the classroom looks like the pictures there on the left. It's teacher-led. There's, classroom discussion. There's opportunities for more of a shared experience in the classroom. Now school, as we know, looks more like the picture on the right. In addition to the games, we've also created this large treasure trove of education materials to use alongside the game. But we recognize when the experience is more like the student on the right, not everything's going to be able to be carried over into the remote classroom. So how do we create an at-home experience that engages students on the same level? So first, we just want to recognize that it works. Mission US works. We know that Mission US, through lots of different studies, it's been proven that teachers find their students more engaged, more emotionally invested during the Mission US unit than like a typical unit they might teach. Okay, we know that it can be easily integrated into curriculum. Okay, we know that it provides support for struggling students. 72% of teachers said that students who struggle academically, especially those with reading or attention issues, perform better with Mission US. So, a lot of this is still present when you're doing it remotely at home. There are supports in the games. For instance, there is text to speech. So students who might have some reading issues or, feel like they're a slower reader, they could use that particular support to help them through the game. It also captures their attention because of the storyline and because of the strong characters. And I find that's something that students who sometimes have attention problems, that's something they can really latch onto. And it's also just new. Most students enjoy Mission US just because it's a change from what they usually are doing in a history classroom. And it definitely, it fits the Gen Z love of gaming, right? It's a way for them to kind of tap into that interest that's already inherent in our that we see in our students. So I want to show you the education materials that are available. What I'm showing you now, this is what the website looks like now. So the website currently, there is a tab for educators. And if you click on educators, then you're brought to this page, which provides links to all of the educator guides and to classroom videos. Now, the educator guides are massive. They're a robust collection of materials that you can use to help support learning with the games. Now, for the new website, we just want to show you a little peek. Educator is going to become Teach. So on the Teach page, you'll have all the same materials. If you've used Mission US before, you're going to have access to all those same resources and all those same documents. But then you're also going to have the ability to preview everything. So one of the things that we're really excited about with the new website is you can see all of the list of additional support materials, and then you can preview them there on the right, which makes it really easy as you're sorting through what would work best for you and your students. So the educator guides are, like I said, it's vast. And really it's created to be user-friendly and for you to pick and choose whatever works best for you and your students. There are modes of instruction. There's historical background material for teachers and historical background material for students. So there's one that's sort of more directed towards teachers, and then there's one that's written and built to be on the level of students. There's a game overview that will tell you at a glance what each part of the game, what happens, how long it takes to play each part of the game, some of the vocabulary that's present in that particular part. And all of that's very helpful when you're trying to plan ahead. There's also primary sources. We have all kinds of activities. So the activities are, there's a range of activities. There's vocabulary, there are writing prompts, there to make a lot of ELA connections, there are review questions, and there are document-based activities as well. So another thing that we wanted to highlight is the badges that are present in the game. If you're someone who plays a lot of games, you're probably very familiar with this as a part of the gaming experience. This is your way of getting points while you play. And it's a motivator for a lot of students. And it's also something that motivates them to play the game over and over again so they can change the outcomes and change the number of stars they get for each badge. What I'm showing you here is from the last mission that Leah described, which is Up from the Dust. So Up from the Dust, you're the twins, Frank and Ginny. So on the right here on the screen, what you see is in the game itself, it says that you volunteered to help a farmer's widow with the harvest. So in doing that, that got you 1 star under the can-do attitude badge, okay? On the left, this is a badge tracker, which is available in the educator materials. And this allows students to track their progress and what happens with each badge through each part. Now, something else that I forgot to mention is all of these materials we upload to the site as both a Word document and a PDF. We do both to make it very easy for you to adapt for your needs. And during this time of remote learning, what you can do is you can take that Word document and you can upload it to Google Docs, for instance, and then you can easily assign that to your students in the Google Classroom platform. Here's an example of review questions. So this is from the first mission for Crown or Colony. And on the right, this is just a screenshot from gameplay. And then on the left, you see just an example of the kind of questions that are available in the Educator Guide. So it goes from comprehension-based questions just to make sure that the student was following along and understanding what was happening. But then it also, the questions become more complex as you move down, and then eventually they're having to sort of analyze what was going on and how it impacted them as a character and how it connects to the larger historical concepts of the game. This is just an example of a document-based activity. So this is also from Up from the Dust. If you can see these pictures, these are shots from Hoovervilles during the Great Depression. So this is just an example of one of the many kinds of document-based activities present in the games. This one, students are asked to do a close reading of a photograph and do a photograph analysis, right? So they have the primary sources there, and then they also have a chart to guide them through their analysis of these photographs. And then that leads them to make connections to what they've experienced in the game and how that connects, again, to the historical concepts that are at the core of this particular mission. Okay. So, planning for the remote classroom. We usually talk about integration in the classroom and different ways that you can use it within the real classroom. But during this time of remote learning, we've reconceptualized this to something that is almost more of a spectrum. There's educator-led on one side to more self-guided on the other side. So for an educator-led experience during this time of remote learning, and you can also think about this in the classroom as well. Hopefully you're thinking of, beyond just this time of remote learning, but really the educator-led version is something where before, during, and after playing each part of the game, there are activities that are facilitated by the teacher. There are assignments that are given throughout the game, and you're paced in such a way that it's very much an educator-led experience, okay? Somewhere in the middle right now would be assigning the entire game and then giving the students multiple days to complete it with one or two culminating activities. So maybe there's a writing prop or a final assignment or project that they do at the end. Now, on the other end of the spectrum would be self-guided, okay? That's where the teacher would assign the game, maybe give the students a choice as to which game they play, and this could be done as an enrichment activity to be completed at the student's own pace. And this is where we think that there's a lot of opportunity for use across grade levels. This is where it could be given as like an option for Enrichment Friday for students as young as 3rd grade or students as old as 10th or 11th grade. Obviously, they're going to be getting different things out of it when it's self-guided. They may not hit all of the learning goals, but they will come away with something valuable and they will learn something. Just to kind of give you an example of a sample week unit for the remote classroom, we give you sort of 2 options here on either end of the spectrum. So it could be that on a Monday, as a class, a virtual class, maybe you're doing a Google Meet, if that's what you're using, you could do the pre-activity together as a class. You could assign the game, you could assign the badge tracker through Google Classroom, for instance, then tell them that they have to play the prologue, right? So then on Tuesday, they play part 1, and then you assign the review questions and a writing prompt. Wednesday, they play part 2 with a document-based activity and writing prompts. And again, all of this would be paced out in such a way that you as a teacher would be very much involved along the way, along their journey. And then at the end on Friday, they could turn in their badge tracker. You could have a class discussion about the game as a whole and have a wrap up, okay? Alternatively, you could do something that's much more self-guided. You could assign the game on a Monday, you could tell them they have to play it by Friday, and then you could assign a simple final question for them to answer. Like, for instance, describe what happened to your player at the end of the game. What choices do you think contributed to this outcome? Or write about a difficult choice in the game. How did you decide what to do, and what was the result? These are just ways that you can still, check to see that they've played the game, but it's much more self-guided. And one thing I also wanted to emphasize, because I've seen some questions about this as well, everything that we're talking about here, the games, the materials, everything is absolutely free. It's free. There's no charge. You don't have to subscribe in some way. It's all free, and it's made for you on behalf of public media and all of our partners. So some other just quick tips for the remote classroom. You want to, like I said, assign with Google Classroom. It's very easy. Just upload it as a Google Doc, and then you can use the Google Classroom platform. Like I said before, you can assign as an enrichment activity, and for that, it could go across all grade levels. You can encourage replaying, which is something that I found with my own children. They like replaying, so then they can get more badges or get more points the next time around. You can encourage the students to play in pairs, which is something that my son does sometimes, is that he'll FaceTime with a friend or talk on the phone with a friend while they're playing the game, and they try to sort of have this like shared experience. Like I said before, you can use with younger and older students. I think there were some questions about how young. I mean, I think probably 3rd grade is on the younger end, and I would say juniors might be on the upper end, depending on the student. You can also pair with online experiences like virtual museum tours. One thing Leah mentioned for City of Immigrants, which is the immigration mission, is that you could have students go to the Tenement Museum website. And that's a great pairing for a week unit on immigration in the early 20th century. And then the other thing you could do is you can use it as inspiration for students' own history video game project. I think one thing that we're learning during remote learning is that it's really a great time to lean into project-based learning and to let students really explore things that they're passionate about. So if you have students who are really into gaming, encourage them to use this as inspiration to create their own history video gaming project. And who knows, they might even have the skills to build it. All right. So really what we want to emphasize here, before I hand it over to Leah to give you a sneak peek for our next mission, is that there's a lot of flexibility with this program. It's something that's already online and immersive and easily used during this time of remote learning. And we also encourage you to check out our website. We have some other tips for learning at home. And we're always here to answer your questions. And we're really just here to serve you and hopefully help you engage your students better with history content. So Leah, do you want to give us a sneak peek?
As Christina says, we are preparing to launch Prisoner in My Homeland in June. This is a mission in which young people are going to be able to step into the shoes of Henry Tanaka, a teenager from Bainbridge Island in Washington. And let's take a look.
The year is 1941. You are Henry Tanaka, a 16-year-old American citizen. But after the U.S. declares war on Japan, you are seen as the enemy. The government forces you and 120,000 other innocent Japanese Americans into prison camps. Will you help your community? Support the war? Resist injustice? When your loyalty is questioned, how will you respond? Mission US. Serious history, serious games.
Very much like a Cheyenne Odyssey, Prisoner in My Homeland is being developed with really close collaboration with several partners, including the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community, Densho, a really extensive advisory board, and then also the National Park Service and Manzanar Committee. We are so excited to have the 6th mission released soon and can't wait for you and your students to play it and let us know what you think.
All right. So at this point, we were going to open it up to questions. And Leah, there's quite a few questions that have come in. Maybe we can look through and see. I mean, there were a lot of questions about like how long does it take to play the game, which I said it takes about an hour to complete a game from beginning to end. Questions again about like the right age. Like I said, you can kind of extend it. It's the focus is on middle school, but it really can be extended to younger and older students.
I'm seeing some questions about accessibility, and the last few missions, we have some great accessibility features in. So there is text to support. So if you go into the game, you're going to see little sort of speaker icons, and you can click on those, and that will voice over what is being read on the screen.
Okay. Some people are asking about Google Classroom. So we're not fully integrated with Google Classroom. You can assign students to play the game. I think there's some questions about them students having to sign up and register. Again, like everything is free, and some other people are asking about like why do they have to register? If you register, some of the advantages to registering is just that you can save your gameplay, so that way you don't have to play it all in one setting. You can go back and finish your game at a later point. I don't know, Leah, if you have anything else to add to that, like the advantages to registering.
It's really about the saving the games. The games are pretty, they're in depth, they're long, and we wouldn't want a student to kind of start doing it and then have the system, internet go down or something and then not know what happened to their character.
Yeah,
I do see a lot of a few questions about Flash, which, just to let folks know, some of the Mission US games are built in Flash, which you may be aware is being sunset at the end of this year. So the team has been working hard to rebuild games in a different technology in Unity. We've done that already and released for Mission 1. We also have Mission 5, which is a Unity game, and then we're working as hard as we can to upgrade the other remaining missions. In the meantime, we do have some FAQs on the website about what to do when you hit issues with Flash. Usually the problem is your browser is not letting Flash run. And so you might have to go to your settings and allow Flash to run. If you do run into those kind of hurdles, don't hesitate to reach out to our support team to help walk you through that.
Just another little bit of information about registration. One thing just to emphasize is that you don't need to provide an email address or any kind of personal info when you register. So it's not as if you then sign up and then you're suddenly going to be locked into something that you don't want your students to be receiving emails from us or something like that. It's not like that. It's just a way for you to save gameplay. For instance, like there's a lot of questions coming in, like, can you play the game in small parts? I mean, that's the advantage to registering, is that you can play and then you can save your gameplay and come back and revisit later.
Christine, I think we better acknowledge all the ancient historians and global historians and say we hear you loud and clear, and we will go back to our team and say, how do we make this happen?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about, like, when can you do one for global? Let's see, anything else coming up here? Do you offer this in different languages? Not yet. Not yet. Trying to see.
I believe 5 has some translation settings that you can use, but I'm not 100% sure. So we'll check that and follow up.
Yes. Trying to see if there's anything else. I see there were a lot of questions about login. Can students log in with their Google login? No, we're not fully integrated with Google Classroom, but like I said, one of the things that we've done with the educator materials is we've made Word documents available for everything, so that way you can easily download and then you could upload to Google Docs and use whatever pieces are most valuable for you and your students.
I'm also seeing all the Lewis and Clark suggestions.
Yes.
And that is another great one. We will pass that along. And actually, we are starting to think about our next mission topic. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't already, this is a great time to get your vote in. We're seeing, again, lots of great ideas coming in. So please.
Space exploration. I like that one.
And, I'll let everyone know that one of the things that factors into our decision of which topics is where we see a gap in other curricular resources. Is there a perspective that there aren't a lot of materials about? And so it's often a kind of a needs-based approach where we really see we could have an impact.
Great. I also see some more questions about accessibility. That if it's appropriate to use with special education students who have an IEP. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that the games have are some additional supports, like text to speech, the ability to sort of adjust some of the levels. Lee, I don't know if you have anything else to add to the accessibility.
I think those are the main ones.
Yeah.
We have talked with some of the Facing History folks, and they are amazing what they do there. So yes.
Yeah. I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Questions about tracking students' progress. So back in 2006, when we were first developing it, we did this sort of poll for a teacher's dashboard. And, the consensus was like, nobody uses those anyway. And now, we're in 2020 and it's a completely different technology and classroom space. So we are also really tracking that many of you would like some sort of component that would allow you to track your students' progress. That idea is something that the mission team has been talking a lot about. So that's great to see that. And we'll pass that along too. In the meantime, what we really encourage is using some of those assignments that Christina went through as your artifacts of learning. And you can make it fun. You can have them share their badges as a way of tracking their progress.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a lot of ideas coming in, Leah, for the next mission.
I know, it's great.
We're going to be
we really
these.
appreciate it.
Yeah, there's so many great ideas, and I think we've talked a lot about how it's not as if we're only going to be looking forward chronologically. There is like the possibility of us filling in the gaps of all the things that we haven't covered yet in terms of the timeline of U.S. history.
I've seen a couple comments about, have we done anything on the Underground Railroad? And Flight to Freedom does include in the second part of the mission something on the Underground Railroad. And one of the design choices that we've made is that to really help students understand that the network of activists that were involved. And so when Lucy tries to make it north, the only way she will succeed if she is able to access that network of Underground Railroad activists. So encourage anyone interested in that, to first play the game and then use it with your students, especially if that's curriculum you're interested in.
And I would say one other thing to emphasize too is that a lot of the games, especially up from the dust mission 5 and in the upcoming mission, really have a lot of connections to contemporary times. Like the game, while it takes place in the past, it really like expands into the present in terms of just what happens in the game, but also in terms of the connections that the students are asked to make throughout the game. So I think we're out of time for questions. We'll definitely make note of all of these ideas for future missions. And we just want to give like a quick shout out to our funders and partners. You may recognize some of these names, and we couldn't do this without their help and their support. So thank you. We also just want to give you our handles and again, give you our website address. Right now, the website it still has its old look, but come next month, it's going to have this whole new design, and we love it. And we know that you will love it too. Please follow us on Twitter and reach out to us. We always love hearing from teachers. And we always want to answer any questions that you might have or ideas that you might have. So you can email us, keep in touch, and follow us online. We have our information here. If you want to reach Leah, you can reach her at the Electric Fun Stuff Twitter. And like I said, you can always email us at missionus@13.org and follow us online. And we also encourage you to check out other offerings from the WNET group, which is www.wnet.org/education. And there you'll find information about Mission US, but then you'll also find out information about all the other material and content available for teachers from PBS. Join the free online community at EdWeb, and that allows you to access those things, to download the slides, to join discussions, and get invitations to upcoming webinars. So please, we encourage you to do that. So we thank you so much for joining us today. It is now 6 p.m. We're right on time. We hope everyone is healthy and safe, and we hope that everyone is thriving during this time, and we hope we can be of service through our product Mission US. Leah, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the support, and thanks for all the great ideas. And again, let us know how it goes. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes. Thank you.